And welcome back into Fox Weather Live. As Southern California reflects on the massive wildfire outbreak that tore through parts of Los Angeles this time last year, we're hearing from someone who lived that disaster from both sides of the fire line. Fire Captain Isaac Baeza, he spent decades protecting communities as a wildland firefighter, but the flames threatened his own Altadena neighborhood. And when they did, he suddenly was fighting to save his family's home with nothing more than a garden hose. Joining us now is Fire Captain Isaac Baeza. Isaac, I want to thank you for joining us here tonight to share your story. Take us back to that night in Altadena. When did you first learn about the fire moving towards your neighborhood and your home?
I was watching the news and I was watching the Palisades. I just walked in the door and I was watching the Palisades unfold. And my first thought was like, okay, do what I got to do and get back to work. And then on the bottom of the TV, I saw ticker tape, and my wife said, "There's a fire in Altadena." And I went outside, looked, and didn't see anything. But my phone started blowing up, and a bunch of my friends from other departments were calling me, texting me, and asking me, "Am I okay? Like, do I need any help?" Um, and that's when I kind of knew it was real. There was really a fire in Altadena. And,
Mm-hmm.
just
And Captain, you fought these wildfires for years, but this time around, it's your family, right? You said people were reaching out to you. That's when it kind of clicked that this is real. This is going to happen in my neighborhood to my family. How was it trying to stay calm, especially for the sake of your kids as they were watching this fire get closer to their home?
yeah, I think managing my wife and my kids was probably the hardest part of all of it. Like you said, I've been doing this for 23 years, 25 now actually. And every time I've been in an incident of fire, with people who are trained and able to recognize these incidents and situations, but my wife and my kids don't. And so now I was like, we always talk about not putting yourself in a situation where you wouldn't put your family in. And I was actually in that situation. So I had to, really keep them occupied, keep my kids occupied, so they weren't really thinking about the situation they were in. So I started giving them small tasks to do, gather some clothes, get things ready, and then just kind of trying to monitor the fire and see where it was at. Maybe I could get eyes on it, and so I could start time stamping things or start putting a timetable to things of what, when we had to actually evacuate, or maybe even if we weren't going to have to evacuate. So it was really just managing them and trying to keep their minds at ease that we were going to be okay no matter what happened.
And I could even tell with your voice and your pacing now that it's something that's comforting in a moment of distress, like the videos that we were watching. And it's so heroic because I'm told that even as your home was at risk, you were still doing your job in terms of walking around, letting your neighbors know that, hey, it's time to get out. At what point in time did your tune kind of change? Did you know it was no longer safe to kind of stay in your neighborhood?
Um, the winds started impacting us pretty hard, a little harder. Um, Later in the evening, I want to say around midnight. It really just, I couldn't walk without, wearing some sort of eyeglasses, some clear eyeglasses, walk around the house. My wife was actually leaning into the wind to walk. And we started getting small ember cast at first. And intermittently, and then after a while, we started getting that ember cast. They were the size of large marbles, and that's really when I knew, okay, it's time to go. And I walked up the block and kind of started letting the neighbors know, and they all were pretty much ready to go and packed up, and they started walking out or driving out. I stayed back. I stayed back till the last people were ready to go, just because I have this giant oak tree and my neighbor has this giant eucalyptus tree, and I didn't want any of the branches to fall in the middle of the road and block anyone in. And those trees have been known to drop branches in, during wind events. But, in the wind event that we were facing, I was even more worried about anyone, everyone getting out and getting stuck behind, one of those large branches. So yeah, I want to say about 5 o'clock was I was one of the last people to leave. My neighbor, just right next door to me was pulling out right behind me. So I headed out, and that was it. close to around one of the last times I saw my house standing.
I was going to say, Captain, before we let you go, give us a quick update. Where do you stand now a year later? How's your family doing? Where are you standing in terms of your home? Do you still have that home?
We still have the law. Unfortunately, as you see in the video you're posting in the background, that is my actual house burning. I drove back up, up there around 8, 9 o'clock, and the house was still standing. I jumped out of my truck. Thought, like, I could actually save this. And, I it was just too much. There was so many, little fires burning around the structure there. It was going to be impossible to save. And as far as my family, every day I feel like we're getting better. We're getting stronger. There's a lot to this, right? My wife and I have been dating since we were 16 years old. So this is, we're going on 34 years. So we didn't just lose 4 walls in the roof. We lost everything in that house. That was our entire life. That was our world. And so, that's what's gone. That's what hurts the most, I think, and just the difficulties of rebuilding. Like there's no plan for this, right? There's no, like, we didn't really know what was next. Okay, we got the debris removed. Okay, now what? Like, where do we go from here? It's just the unknown is really the most complicated part of all this, and there's a lot of people still struggling with that and grieving.
I'm sure. Listen, I know that it's still a long road ahead for you guys. And from our heart here at Fox Weather to yours, we do want to wish you and your family all the best moving forward. Again, Captain Baeza, I want to thank you for joining us, telling us your story, and we wish you all the best of luck with this recovery.
Thank you. Appreciate you reaching out to us.